All right, we're back. We are at GAME 2015 in the winter 2019 semester, and it's week 10, part 3 of our broadcast. We're talking about importing models from Mixamo now. We just finished talking about basic rigging techniques in Blender, and we're talking basic, nothing too crazy, right? So what I want to do now is I want to introduce something called Mixamo to you, which you may already know. Mixamo is an online tool that has been developed and produced and is hosted by Adobe, which is pretty cool. What Mixamo allows us to do is take basic characters that someone else has created. So let's get rid of walk. And you can see that there's basic characters you can choose from. Like, for example, I want, let's get Lola here. And I want to get rid of my model. And what Lola, if I click a character, it will, whatever character I include, has been pre-rigged, and it's not moving for some reason. Maybe I have to rejig this thing. Yeah, I'll have to refresh the screen. There we go. Okay, I didn't choose Lola. I chose this cop zombie. Let's use Lola now. There's Lola. Cool. So Lola, there she is, and she's a model that's been modeled by somebody professional at Adobe, as an example. And it's got some things to note, is that there's a rig that's attached to this model automatically, right, that they've done for us. And what we can do is, now that we have a model, we can go into the Animations tab, and we can choose an animation that's been mocap. So these are all motion captures that have been saved for us to use, right? So if I want to use something like a praying animation, you can make Lola pray. There we are, she's praying now. If I want to make her samba dance, you can make her samba dance. And again, let's think about what we're doing here, right? We have a model, which is a polygonal model. It's organic, right, in that it looks like a human. And what's happened is you have a series of bones that have been applied to the model with different weight paints. And they've been moved around across a timeline so that it appears that the character is animating or is moving around. It's got an animation. Now, the bones are moving because of motion capture. So what's happened is you have an actor that's inside of a motion capture rig. That's what it is. It's a kind of like a scaffold, if you will. And around the rig, you have a bunch of cameras, and the actor's wearing some felt, usually costume, with a few control points that are all over the actor's chest and back and so on, and face too, if you want to capture the face. And then the motion is captured and recorded, so all of the motions are captured for each of the quote-unquote bones that are created between each of the control points on the actor's costume, if you will, right? And then we can bring in these control points, and it creates a rig for us. We can apply to a model, and then we can apply this basic animation that we have right here to the model that we see here, the Lola model. But how does it, who cares? How do we bring this into, how do we do something with this? So let's bring this down, download it. So I'm going to click download here. And notice there's some options. One option is FBX. Please do not use this one. Please use FBX for Unity, right? That one works a little better. And it says with skin. You can also choose keyframes per second and also keyframe reduction. If you choose none, keyframe reduction none means it'll do frame by frame. Every single frame, it'll be there. I mean, you can do that. One thing you can use also is uniform keyframe reduction, where it does some calculations for you. I recommend something like uniform, okay? And then click download. When you do so, you're going to get a download with the name of the character, typically Lola B, and then samba dancing, right? Let's just call her Lola samba dancing. There we go. And we're going to save this model on the desktop for us. It's going to be a messy desktop day today. And then what I want you to do is bring it into Blender and see how it looks. So I'm going to bring up Blender. We're going to get rid of this trash we made. We're going to go here into Blender, get rid of our cube by pressing X. And let's import Lola and see what happens. So I'm going to go File, Import from FBX. And we're going to get Lola from the desktop. which is Lola Samba dancing. And when we import her, if things go well, and they mostly do, she's about 5.78 megs. You can see that she is here now, right? But she's got a weird set of bones. And you're going to like, wait a minute, Tom, you showed us the bones inside of the body. How come these bones are outside of the body? Well, this is optimized for Unity, right? This is how they want the bones to be, right? And for a couple of reasons. These are control points again. So what they've done is instead of putting the bones inside the body, they've got the bottom part of the bone inside the body, almost like a control point. And then you move the control point, and because the control point moves, the armature, the geometry around the control point also moves. So it's another way of animating. You don't have to have the bone physically in the body. You can have it like this. It looks kind of scary. And if you go to the actual armature itself, here's my armature. And if I go X-ray, you can see that the bones are through the entire body, right? Also, even the hands and everything else, and the fingers. There's bones in each finger, right? So that's what it looks like right now, if you see that, right? Kind of cool. All right, so can you play this in Blender? Yes, you can. And if you play it, it'll actually animate the object in Blender. You can see how it animates, right? And if you're curious how this model was made, right, you can also pause it. And you can right-click on the model and press Tab to go into Enter mode. And now it goes into T-pose. That's what this model is. Again, there's two basic poses we start off with when we bring them into to get rigged. One is T-pose, where the body's in a T, like we see here. And the other one is A-pose, when the body's in an A, where the arms are down. So it makes almost like the shape of an A with the head, right? Like this. So A-pose, T-pose. Okay. You guys can't see me on the video, but anyways, but that's the way it works. Okay, so when you start off in T pose, this is also called base pose. You can attach an armature. Notice the armature is way over here. Notice that, and my model's way over here because of the timelines. I've actually brought the timeline way back. You can see that the bones walk without the model. Look, and this is actually the motion capture animation that's happening. You can see which each of the control points is mapped, and then it starts off my model like this. It doesn't start off with my model in T-pose. It starts with my model in a different pose. And if you want a T-pose, you can download T-pose from a Mixamo as well. All right, so why am I showing you this? Well, you can see that if we just hide the armature for a second, you can see that the organic model has been made pretty nicely. You can see how the hair is. These are all vertices, and how the shape of the clothes and so on, how they've been made, the body. And we're going to get into doing some of this next week. Guys, I have to tell you, it's a long and painful process to learn how to do organic modeling. It is not easy at all. It is something that can make many people go, why? Why would I do this work? This is crazy. And why? Because there's a lot of detail. If you love doing this kind of stuff, it's great. But you can see that all these vertices, the control points. And by the way, one thing to note about this model, and I want to just bring it closer to the face. Not that close. Closer to the face. You can see that there's no triangles in the bottom here. It's all quads, which is actually really, really important to do. And because then you have even deformations of the object, right? Now, guys, to get it to quads like this is an art. Okay, it's not easy to do. There's a lot of work to be done to get a model like this into quads. Okay, so you're subdividing a model, modifying your vertices until you get to something that looks like this, smoothing it, and then applying textures to it and an armature so you can animate it. All right, that's really what you're doing here. Okay, and usually the armatures are different depending on what you want to do. So that's what the model looks like in Blender. But what does it look like? How does it work in Unity, right? Well, let's grab a couple of other things. Let's grab a idle pose as well. So up in Mixamo here, we have this one where she's samba dancing. That's okay, but I want to get her in idle pose. Like, what would she look like in the game? Let's just get a standard idle pose. So yeah, we have a standard idle pose where she's looking around, maybe like one of these. You know, that's pretty cool. So she's doing one of these things. And again, whenever you apply a pose to the character, when this thing actually is going to work, let's just refresh. It's really weird today. I'm getting weird connections. There she is in T pose, and I want to click on her. An idle pose, there's idle pose. So she's kind of an idle pose. We're going to use her in the game. I want to download that. Again, in FBX for Unity with some uniform keyframe reduction, and press download. And when we do that, we should have Lola. It should say Lola in idle. Let's call it Lola, capital L. And we'll get one more. We'll get Lola walking. Okay, so let's get the walking animation. Right? So we can see different walking. Here we get this one. See how that looks? Right? It's kind of a manly walk. I don't know. I mean, some people like more of this kind of walk. I'm just saying it's a little bit, you know, her. I'm not choosing this one. That's like kind of crazy, right? She's like walking like this, right? This one's okay, though. This one's a little better for her. It's a little bit more natural for her body type, right? And this is okay. So this is her walk animation. Notice also that you can also choose walk in place, and that's not a bad option for walking in place. Walking in place is good if you're going to do your own locomotion in the game, right? If you want her to walk with root motion, then you wouldn't choose this, right? I'm going to choose this because I'm going to just show you a very simple demo, right? So again, I'm choosing this object, FBX for Unity, uniform keyframe reduction, download. And again, when we get to it, we're going to have 3 animations, but we're only going to use 2 of them. So we're going to go into Lola walking. Good. Excellent. All right. So how do I bring these things into Unity? How do I make them work? Well, let's make a we've got a Unity project here that we can use. We're just going to take the cube out of here. And we're going to, in the models folder, we're going to bring in Lola in a couple of times. Okay, so again, we're going to kind of bring up, we'll bring up one of these, go to the desktop. And you can see that there are 1, 2, 3 different Lola models. Okay, I want them all. And drag and drop them into here. And when you do this, they all get converted into something that can be used by Unity. I want to bring the Lola idle model into Unity first. So click Lola idle. Again, I've just downloaded an idle pose. Bring her in. And also make sure that she can be seen by the camera, because that's important. Like she's way over there. And that what you can see that the camera is just removed like way back here. So just want to move the camera here and just rotate it by a bunch just to get it back to normal. So I'm going to get these rotations to 0. And then rotate the camera across the y-axis until I can see Lola. And maybe bring it closer even and up. And maybe even just kind of to the side here. There we go. And maybe rotate it a little bit more because the way she's positioned. There we go. Okay. So there's Lola. It's going to look like this. But look, she's got no textures. How do we bring that in? Well, we did this before. I'm going to go to Lola idle. So first of all, let's change this to her name to player. She's my new player. And in Lola idle, I have a model I'm going to attach colliders to and a light map UVs. I'm also going to go to materials, and I'm going to extract both textures and materials. So textures first. I'm going to put in the textures folder, select, and then I'm also going to do the same thing with materials. Sure. I'm going to go with materials. Yes.
Do you know what that paper icon right next to the prefab icon is?
The paper icon next to the prefab icon. Where?
The blue cube prefab icon, and right next to
oh, this little thing here. Yeah, it's a model. It basically means it's a model. It's not a prefab yet. For me to make it a prefab, I'd have to drag and drop it back like this. Then it says here, it says original prefab, or I can make a variant. I can make a variant. I'm not going to do that here. Yeah, it's right here. So I'm going to go back to my model under Lola, and you can see all I've done is I've extracted textures and I've extracted materials. And if you look at the textures, there's textures here, and the materials are here. Okay, so those are materials and textures. They're already been extracted. And I did that by pressing the extract button. Okay. Now, last thing I want to do is I want to look at the rig. You can see that it's a generic animation type. I could change this to a human. I'm not going to do that. Animation is important. Keyframe reduction is, let's leave it as is. And the one thing I want is loop time. I want this animation that's built into this model right here to loop, this idle animation. Okay. One thing to note, I'm going to click apply. One thing to note is that, again, she does not have an active animator. There isn't an active animator. So we have to add one ourselves. So I'm going to go to animations. I'm going to add a new animator, right? So here's an animator controller. We'll call this the Lola controller. There's the Lola controller. And if you look at the Lola controller, if I double click here, right, and I have the Lola model. I have under the Lola idle, this idle clip. There's my idle clip. I can drag and drop my idle clip in here. And there we go. There's my idle clip. So by default, it's going to do the idle animation by itself, right, by default. And again, I got to go back to the player, and I got to drag and drop the new animator that I just made into the player like this. And then I'm ready to go. If I press play, I've got Lola, and she's going to show me her basic animations. So it's pretty cool. By the way, you can apply this basic mocap. You can transfer the mocap animation, mocap stuff, to another model. So you can transfer the animations to any model that has a humanoid shape, which is kind of cool. Which is what we're going to do next week. We're going to do that next week.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. Well, I worry. So it's a long process. All right. Was that?
Sort of. You can apply them to anything with your humanoid shape.
Sort of. Yeah. Not quite, but sort of. Like, for example, if you want to make this into a bear shape that's kind of humanoidish and standing up bear, you could do it, but it would look weird.
Anything that could be, you have to be able to run it through.
Yeah. Well, or you can do it on your own, but you're nuts. Anyway, so here's the way it works. So again, example would be, Cody, I can actually take a Mixamo, any kind of model, apply a armature, bring it back down, get my own model, right? As long as it's in T-pose, the armature's in T-pose, and my model's in T-pose, I can bind the model to the armature just like I did before, right? And make some adjustments because normally the fingers are off or the head's off or something's off, right? You can make some adjustments. And once you've done that with automatic weight paints, it's not going to be terrible, but it's not going to be great either, right? So, you know, that's something that you can do, no problem. All right, so this is basic Lola, but I want to get Lola so that I can animate her, and when I press a button, she walks. How do I do that? So again, I've got in my animations, in my models, I have another model for Lola, which is this walking Lola. I don't care about the model itself. All I care about is this, which is the walking clip, this part, okay? Yeah.
So if you only care about the walking clip, you can download like the animation stuff.
I wish. No.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It,
You'd have
it
to,
always has to come with
well, it's just a standard. Yeah, you can't do it. There's a bit of overhead here, but at least not that I know of. So if you go to animations, if you double click on Lola controller, if I go to the models and if I go to the Lola walking and if I drag and drop the Lola walking clip inside the animator, now I have two clips. I have the walking clip and the idle clip. One thing I forgot to do is in the Lola walking, I have to go into the animation and click on loop time. That's important. Otherwise, it'll only walk once. Now, I want to make a transition. Remember how animations work in Unity. This should be all review for you now. To make this work, I need to make a transition from idle to walking. So I'm going to right-click and make a transition. And right-click from walking back to idle. I want to be able to do that too. And I want to create some kind of way, a method for me to get there. I'm going to use parameters here. I'm going to make a new integer parameter, the standard way of doing it. I'm going to call this thing, I don't know, animation state. It's going to start at 0. And what I want to do is when it moves from here to here, I want to change the condition. So when my anim state goes from 0 to 1, it's going to change from idle to walking, right? And I also want to reduce this. I want to reduce this a lot. I also want to do click off has exit time because that usually produces a bad result. All right, so those two things. And why? Because it takes too long. You have to wait for the exit to happen before you move into the next animation. All right, so let's go from walking back to idle. So walking back to idle, click on that little transition. And again, I'll reduce this right down. And then what I want to do is go from walking to idle. I want to click this little plus button and go when it's equal to 0, then it goes from walking to idle. When it's equal to 1, it goes from idle to walking. So there, I have created my animation state. This should be all review for you guys, yeah? Yes? Hopefully. Hopefully it is, right? Because it'd be bad if it wasn't. All right, so great. I have this animation state, but I have no way to get there. I need some script for that. So I'm going to go into the player controller, the player object, and I'm going to right-click. I want to add in a script. Actually, let's just do it here. I want to add a new script. I want to call this new script the player controller. And I don't want it where it is because it'll put it in way over here. I want to put this inside the scripts folder. So I move that in there. I just want to keep organized. And then if I double click on this script, I'll bring up Visual Studio 2017 or whatever the editor of your choice is. A lot of times I like to use Visual Studio Code nowadays. I want to make a reference to my animator. So again, this is the default stuff that I want to do. I'm just going to get rid of this. So I'm going to go public animator, and we'll call this animator. If I can spell properly today. I cannot spell. Oh, definitely not. Definitely can't spell. Public, not public. Public animator, animator. And then what I want is I don't need the start method at all. So let's take it out. Again, guys, sometimes you'll see people online in tutorials taking out start method and update method, and you're like, but why, right? It takes up cycles. It actually takes memory to have those things sitting there idle and doing nothing inside your script. So if you're not using it, take it out. All right, start and update, especially start. Start takes up a lot of cycles, so please take that out if you're not using it. Update we need here, you know. And what we're going to do here is we're going to say if. We're going to do a little if statement. We're going to say if input.getKeyDown, right? And we're going to use the key code. We'll also use a space bar for today just to demonstrate this thing, not really for the game. But if the space bar is pressed, we're going to say that our animator, lowercase, we can use the this keyword just to make it easier. This.animator set integer of an integer called anim state, which we named in the animator. We'll set this to 1, right? And in case that isn't the truth, if my input dot get key down, actually we'll get key up, up. I'll be okay, Tom. Ooh, today. And then my key code dot space. If the user lets go of the space bar, then we'll just copy paste this one. It's exactly the same, and we'll make this a 0. All right, so that gives us, that change of state from an idle state to a walking state and back. Okay, very simple. Save that. Go back to here. And one thing we need to do also for this to work is we got to get a reference to the animator, which is sitting up here inside of our script. And to do that, I'm just going to drag and drop this to here. Done. Okay, so that's done. Save it. And again, this is a cheat, but it works. And if I press play, then I have she's idling. And if I press space, she's walking. And if I let go of space, she's idling. And if I go back to space, she's walking. And if I don't like the transition time, I can always change it. I've got a little bit of transition like that, took a little bit too long. And the way to change that is in the animator itself. So if you go to animations, the Lola controller, on the way back out, there is exit time. We have to make sure that that's not clicked. And it's definitely not clicked on the inside, right? So otherwise, it'll wait till one thing exits before the other thing starts. Right? So again, if I press play, you can see that it starts, enter, and stop. Right? So it's pretty good. So you can get the animations going, and it looks pretty good, right? I didn't do any of the modeling. You can apply this basic motion, the stuff we get, from professionals that have done motion capture and everything else, actors and models, to make it look pretty good for your game, right? questions around this process. This is pretty simple, right? So I would have each pose would be coming from Mixamo, and I'd probably have, I'm not joking around, for an average game, if you want to have like a third-person controller, probably 30 to 100 poses, depending on how crazy you want to get, right? I mean, you know, you're going to have a side-to-side walk, you're going to have a turn, you're going to have a strafe, you're going to have a walk backwards, you're going to have a jump, you're going to have a jump and then land in a crouch, jump and then land properly, a guy walking with a weapon, walking crouch with a weapon, or, you know, tumbling, some kind of thing. I mean, I can keep going, right? And we can think of a lot of stuff, swinging off a rope, climbing up an object. Apex Legends, if you ever look at some of their models and the way they've done their stuff, there's a lot of animations on those models. They look really good. Yeah, I do. It's really good. I really think it's one of the, you know, for a free game, you can't go wrong with Apex Legends, right?
Nowadays it lags a lot, doesn't it?
It's starting to. There's some times where I get some little bit of lag, but we're talking about 50 million players, so, you know, no, it's not. It's fun, huh?
At the same time.
What?
50 million?
I'm not sure if at the same time. That's their top. I'm not sure that they're 50 million at one time, but. Oh boy, we'll talk about it after. Let's just go back to this. All right, so are we good? So do you guys have this? Do you guys understand? Anyone not understand how to do this? Because guys, why am I showing you this? I want you to use nice looking models in your game. There's no excuse like saying, oh, I don't know how to do modeling and I don't know how to do that. There's no need to know anything. You literally go on Mixamo, you grab a model, and you can make it go. How about if you have a model from somewhere else, though? Like you grabbed the model from, it wasn't from Mixamo, you grabbed it from another program, like MakeHuman, as an example. Let's look at that. There's one other program I want to show you, MakeHuman. I also want to show you Adobe Fuse. And those are the two other programs I can show you that are quick and dirty ways of getting placeholder assets in your game, okay? Okay, MakeHuman. MakeHuman is a free download again. So if you go to MakeHuman, which is this one, MakeHuman is a project that is open source. You can download it. There's no cost to this at all. I think it's a worthwhile project to learn about. And I've downloaded it already, but it takes a bit of work, a bit of time to download. So please take your time downloading. I think it's like 300 megs or something like that. If I double click on MakeHuman, this is what you get. So this is you can watch this one. I'll just do it. They're not hot. They're just models, right?
You can say a model. Well, come on,
so here's a generic model. Now these models are anatomically correct, so to speak. They can be. So if you see, I want to make this a male model. I can kind of increase the age a little bit. I can modify some options here. Let's see if I can make this so you can see it though, because I know that I've got reduced space on the screen. So let's just do this so you can see it properly. There we go. That's pretty good enough. So I've got this model. I can zoom in by using the middle mouse wheel, scroll wheel, right? And again, what I want is if I want to pile muscle on this person, I can do that. I can increase their weight so that I can make them bigger. I can increase their height, proportions. I can kind of, make this guy pretty crazy looking. Well, no, I can. Well, I don't know. These are the things that they have here, right? Well, no, let's just make him, I don't know, Caucasian for now. You can make him anything you like. But if you want to do more, you can mix the skin colors, just change the skin color so it makes it a little bit different colors. And then you can go and do things like modify the face specifically if you want to do modifications on each aspect of the face to make it more unique. The torso, you can change the size of the arms and everything else, and the V shape of the body and blah, blah. I'm not going to do any of that. And one thing you can take is also geometries. Like, for example, I want to have some kind of tops. So let's go to a male casual outfit, something like this. There we go. So male casual outfit. This guy has male, and maybe some shoes would be good. So I want to go to shoes, which is this, and we'll choose some basic shoes. There we go, basic shoes, and that's your model. And this is okay. This is an A pose, as you can see, so it's not terrible, especially when it comes into Mixamo. This is pretty good, but I want to put him into T-pose because I think it's a little better. So if I click on pose, animate, and if I click on pose, you can see that there is an option underneath here for T-pose, so you can actually repose them. Now this is a little weird. One thing I don't like about Make Human is it does this with some of the shoulders. Like that is a weird shoulder. Look at that, right?
Yeah.
It's not quite right. Yeah, probably made him too muscular. And again, you can always go back, you know, from a modeling perspective. I can go back to the main and change and reduce his muscles a little bit just to make it so it's not as bad. Still not really right. Like that's kind of a weird shape, but that's fine. Whatever. So once I've got him and he's like in the right shape or whatever, I can always export him. So I can say File, and I want to export. I can export this guy as an FBX format like we did before. And let's just call him Kyle. There we go, Kyle.
Hi, Kyle.
Hi, Kyle. He's going to be exported. You can see the units of measures here as well. You can modify those. I'm going to export Kyle on the desktop. There he is. There's Kyle. And I'm going to reduce this down. And now I'm going to push him up to Mixamo. So let's go back to Mixamo. And instead of Lola, let's upload our Kyle character. So we're going to go into here. I was right. And just grab Kyle and drag and drop Kyle. Oops. Drag and drop Kyle into here. And then now what Mixamo is going to try and do is it's going to try and help us map Kyle, right? So here's Kyle. I can orient Kyle any way I like. I'm going to click next. And I didn't even give Kyle a hair or anything. It's all because of you, Jackson. So I'm going to get this chin. Here's my chin. I can position my chin. It helps you snap too. So where my chin is, approximately there. And then my wrists. So I'm going to get my wrists in there. So, and again, if you look on the left, there's a bit of a preview of where my wrists are going to be. And then my elbows. My elbows are kind of tough to see on this one because of the way I've positioned them. So probably somewhere in there. And then my knees. The knees are kind of easier. It's kind of somewhere approximately in there. And then the groin, and that would be somewhere right in the middle, somewhere right here. Excellent. And then notice it says standard skeleton, 65 bones, use symmetry. I'm going to click next. And then it's going to do its auto rigging. So again, I've got a model of my own. It has nothing to do with Mixamo anymore. Mixamo's models I'm not using. I'm using my own model. Maybe I found a model on some other site, 3D model with textures and everything else. And I want to use that model for my stuff, right? And I can do that with Mixamo. It takes a little bit of time. One thing you can also do if you read the documentation with Mixamo is you can actually upload your own rig on Mixamo, which is really cool, and use it, which means it'll save you doing all this work, the rigging part. And it'll just apply the root motion that you're going to get from the motion capture to the rig, which is important. And there we go. So there's Kyle. Let's see if Kyle looks okay, right? So one thing you have to always look at is, does the model deform properly? Like he's kind of scary looking, right? He's kind of scary looking, but he looks okay. And let's bring Kyle in here, but we'll make him walk like a zombie, right? So where's my Kyle? What happened to Kyle? No, I don't want to do that again. Did I upload Kyle? Oh. I probably didn't click the right button. Ah, that's bad. Okay, let me go back and do one more time. One more time, and then we'll be able to do this. I don't want to do this too much, but actually, let's not. Yeah, I don't know what it is with this thing. Maybe Kyle's already there. No, it's not. All right, but here's one thing. So that's Kyle. So you can do Kyle. So imagine I'm not going to do it now because we're going to lose time. Imagine I had Kyle. I brought him into Mixamo, and he's motion capped. I can bring him into Unity the same exact way. Right? Okay, one more. The other one is Adobe Fuse. Adobe Fuse is a really cool tool if you have access to Adobe products, and I do because I subscribe. If you do, then what you can do is you can download Adobe Fuse. I'm not sure if it's free to check out if you're not an Adobe subscriber, but it looks like, if I can bring it up, let's bring up Fuse here. Adobe Fuse, there it is. So Fuse is really cool in that it does it differently than Make Human. Make Human has a whole body. This has body parts with textures. So for example, I want to make this dude here, the male brute. So I bring him in. So he's a brute character. There we go. And I want to give him a male body like this. There we go. That kind of doesn't look right. That doesn't look right. I said torso. That's pretty scary. Let's make him look like this. Okay, that's not bad. There we go. And then male brute. Sure, well, we can give him a brute leg, and maybe I'll give him some zombie arms. Let's see if I can do that. Male fit zombie. All right, it's gonna look weird.
Oh, this is how art makers.
Right. So take a look at that. It's kind of a weird looking, zombie looking arms, and if you don't like his legs, you can do the same thing with his legs. If you have some fun here, this is where I kind of like it from that perspective. They don't have a lot of choices. I wish they did have more choices, but I mean, it's for a one thing I like a lot is that you have for placeholder assets. I mean, it's pretty good, man. I mean, it's like it hasn't given you much to deal with. Yeah, okay, there it is. And so you can make him kind of like, looking pretty horrid. He looks pretty horrid now, right? No, I'm gonna keep him like this. I'm gonna keep this guy like this. We'll call him Bob. All right, Bob. That's right, Bob, the zombie-ish guy, right? Kind of. He's got some kind of disease, right? Anyways, and then you can clothe him, right? You can go to clothing, and like before, you can choose some stuff. Let's get him some kind of shirt happening, and maybe some bottoms. We'll give him some, I don't know, knee pads. Whatever. I don't know if that makes any sense. Nah, I don't like the top. Where's the top? Tops. Let's give him another kind of shirts. This one. Right. Okay. I don't know how that makes sense, but that's fine. And then let's get shoes, and we'll give him some shoes. There we go. So we got shoes on this guy and everything else. And the great thing about this one is it has send to Mixamo, which is the main thing. So I click send to Mixamo, and I'll call this guy Bob, right? Bob is going to be my weird-looking dude that's going to be in our game, let's say, and he's not going to be a nice dude. I don't know. He has a brute. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, that's all that for me. So again, I can pick heads and basic things. Create some. This is a great way of doing placeholder assets in your game, and then once you push it up to Mixamo, great thing is it's auto rigged. You can pick from, like, I'm not joking around. It looks like 100 or more. Different kinds of mocap rigs that you can choose for and animations, and then you can download it and install it in your game or attach to your game, just the way we've done. I mean, I think you can't go wrong with this kind of stuff. There's tons of other things out there that do things slightly differently, but I think this is great. Mixamo, it's a good little tool. I'd be sad if they ever turned it off. Put it that way, because it's like awesome. Right. So, any questions around this process?
The only thing I found weird was the character's shoulders, because they weren't quite right.
Yeah, they're always.
Is it just because of the software itself? Like,
yeah, sometimes you're talking about in Make Human, it's kind of weird. In Mixamo is not bad. These shoulders aren't so bad. So you can see like this way it looks like an idle pose. Maybe he's a weird dude, right? And I want to definitely finish. Hopefully that I won't have that bug where he kills him. I'm not going to do anything with him anyway, but let's just use this character. Hopefully that'll work. And let's look at animations. He's probably going to be gone. I'm going to have Lola. Oh, okay.
Oh, there we go.
Yay, there we go. So there he is in T-pose. I probably want to download him like this first in T-pose if I want to do anything with him. Why? Because then I get his rig, which is cool. I get his rig, and he's in T-pose. There's no animations. But let's do a zombie stuff. So if I look at zombie something or another, I want him, I don't know, walking or transitioning or idle. Let's look at him like, I don't know, he'll crawl on the ground. Let's make him crawl on the ground. There we go. There's Bob crawling on the ground. I make him crawl in place even better. Oh God. Yeah, there we go. He's crawling forever. Right. So it's kind of really good. I mean, I think you can't go wrong with this kind of stuff, especially in a horror game. I know people are making a horror game, a couple of them for VR in this class. This kind of stuff is okay. Like you put a guy that looks kind of zombie-ish in the game, like you guys. It can look pretty good, and it's the concept is there. What you want to sell with your video that you're going to make for me on Thursday is the concept of what your game is going to be like as much as possible. Make it look nice, right? So All right, I'm not going to go further than this today. I think we've got the idea of how to do most of this stuff. One tool that I'm going to use next week, and I encourage you to look at, there are some free versions you can use. There's something called 3D Coat. All right, so 3D Coat is a really cool tool. I recommend taking a look at it. I think it's one you can download actually from Steam. I got mine for $72 Canadian. It's a great deal. It's not free. I'm trying to get free tools, but this one is really cool for what you can do with 3D Coat. I'm just going to put this on your Slack channel. So it's like I kind of look at 3D Coat as a combination of ZBrush, I would say, and some other tools that do organic modeling. All right, so I wouldn't do organic modeling. I'm just going to tell you this straight up from my experience. I don't think I would do the organic modeling right in Blender. I wouldn't do it, and I probably wouldn't do it in Maya either. Right? I'd probably do it in a tool like ZBrush or in a sculpting tool like 3D Coat. Right? Why? Because when you can actually sculpt an object the way you like it, first you sculpt an object, right? And then what you can do is you can retopologize an object. So basically add a skin of polygons right along the object to make it look good. You can actually retopo low. So you make a high poly object, really high polygon count, really awesome looking, and you can add a skin and texturing and all that stuff right in 3D Coat. And then what you do is you take it into Blender and you can retopologize it so it's much lower. So low poly model made from a high poly model, which is awesome. And you can do things like create normal maps to make it look good. So it looks like a high poly model when it's actually a low poly model. And it could use things like physics-based rendering. So PBR textures like this, right, which is really, really cool. So this is going into the realm of another program that's out there that's really popular. There's a bunch of other ones that it kind of combines. So this 3D Coat application is kind of a combination of a bunch of other applications that are really cool and fairly straightforward from a price point perspective. So if you're going to buy it through Steam, if I went to Steam, and if you were going to do this kind of stuff, if you're interested, again, it's not required, but if I was going to look at something like 3D Coat on Steam, right? 3D Coat has there's the demo you can buy, but you can actually you can buy the tool. Here's your modeling tool, and wow, that's really great. That's the modding tool. That's the modding tool. The one I want this one. It's $104. It's kind of a little higher than it was when I bought it. They have sales, for this kind of stuff. The amateur version to me is pretty good. You're going to get a lot of value out of the amateur version. And the reason why I'm saying Steam is it's actually cheaper to buy it through Steam than to buy it directly from them, right?
There's
Otherwise, I would.
3D printing tool.
I'm sorry.
3D printing tool. On their website.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, 3DC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what the difference between them.
Yeah, no, 3D Coat is what you want. By the way, this can do things like create models for 3D printing. If you want to do, like, let's say, miniatures for your D&D game, you can do that kind of stuff. It also does, hard surface modeling, but I don't recommend it. I don't recommend 3D Coat or ZBrush or something like that for hard surface modeling. I recommend going back to hard surface modeling program like Blender, Maya, 3D Studio Max, those kind of things. I think those are better options for you for hard surface modeling. Okay, but next week we'll be starting off with this. Can you do a lot of this in Blender? You can. You can do a lot of sculpting in ZBrush, in Mudbox, in Blender, and a bunch of other tools that are out there as well. Okay, questions around today, what we talked about. I kind of skimmed the surface of how to bring in a character. Remember for next week, just to recap before we go, for next Thursday, and this Thursday coming up, you need your a zip folder for your project, your alpha, which is due Thursday. I need that by end of day, right? I need a link to your project files on GitHub. I want a link. Hopefully you'll upload to that little place I gave you guys, the YouTube playlist. Please upload your YouTube video. I want to see it in class. It's due by class, not by end of class, not by end of day, not by 5 o'clock for you guys, by class, which means that Thursday morning, 8 o'clock is what I want when I want to see it, right? So I can look at it. So we can start looking at what you've got, and I give you feedback. You can modify it. You can resubmit it afterwards if you want. but I really would like it to see what you got for 8 o'clock on Thursday morning. Okay, so that's what I'm looking for. One more thing I want is when you hand in your game design document, an updated version of your game design document, I want you to have a section in there, if you don't mind, that talks about your plans for the next couple weeks. What are you doing for your beta release, right? Because remember, you probably might have pivoted at this point, or you might have, thought about, different aspects of your game that aren't working. Like you wanted to do aspect A, and that game wasn't that kind of thing that you wanted to do. That feature wasn't working, so you didn't do it anymore. So put that in. I want to see that in your game design document. I think it's important for us to see that. So please remember those things for Thursday. I know it's a big list, but it's all going to be on the website. I'm going to put it up on Blackboard, all the details like before. Most of those things we do by midnight on Thursday. The one thing I want you to have ready for Thursday morning is your video. Okay? Any questions or concerns? Yes. What? Well, I'll talk to you after. Okay? All right. Otherwise, that's it, guys. Thank you so much. I'll see you guys on Thursday.
Yeah. Are you still recording?